It's episode 3 with me, Leah Renee. Woo! It is a busy one, let me tell you. I just finished my first show of Best Cold Ever. I had done one work in progress, but I did it for Philly Theater Week last week, and it was excellent. I got really good feedback. I love the connection with the audience. They were such a great crowd. I had to keep adding more tickets, so I would say it was sold out, but I guess it sold out a few times. I got some really lovely feedback. I really, really enjoyed it. It's got a long way to go. The intention is certainly there, but it is quite eggy, as my UK friends would say, or quite woolly, as my Welsh friend director told me, Delith Jones. I thought that was funny. Oh, Del, way to reinforce stereotypes by saying my show is woolly. Well, that was the work in progress one. This one was definitely better than my first, and I'm looking forward to doing it in 3 weeks. I will be in Brighton, England, exactly at this time. In 3 weeks, I will be probably asleep. Maybe I'll be taking a nap, but I will be checked in to my little flat in Brighton, and I have 330 seats to sell. I started running ads for that. That's the bummer part. I know I've complained about this before. By the way, if this is the first podcast of mine you're listening to, don't go back and listen to the other. I'm not good at this. I'm new and I suck at it, but this is the only way that you get better is to suck for a while. I'm in what Ira Glass calls the gap. He talks about how creative people have good taste and they know what is good and they have an eye or an ear or whatever for it. But when you start making stuff, it's crap and you know it's crap. And a lot of artists, he say, quit because there's such a gap between what they want to be making and what they have the ability to make. And they get frustrated and they quit. Not me. I'm putting out a lot of hot, steamy garbage for, I don't know, maybe 4 people. I don't know who listens to this. I don't know how to check my stats on Spotify or whatever platforms. I've never bothered to look because I'm doing this for me. So much like my show, I'm being more experimental. I really like stand-up comedy, but a few years into it, it just started feeling contrived and not, I guess, sustainable, maybe is not the right word, but I just thought, oh man, 30 more years of doing this, I'm going to get bored because I'm already starting to get bored. I've made this new show, Best Cold Ever, and it's different. It's sillier. I don't like to advertise it as being musical comedy or having interaction or clowny kind of stuff because I think people are turned off to that sometimes. I'm honestly not much of a musical person. There are a few musicals that I've seen that are okay, but I was actually talking with Adam Bloom about this. He just saw a Book of Mormon musical, and I was so amazed seeing it at how easily theater crowds laugh. In stand-up, it's the standard of writing is so much higher. Your punchlines just have to be so tight. You can't rely on the energy of bright lights and music and multiple people and singing in unison and harmony and dancing. It's just you up there, and so the material has to be so tightly written. And I was just amazed at some of the stuff that people laughed at. I'm not saying the Book of Mormon musical is not good. Please don't misquote me on that. I think it's fine. I just thought, wow, this is like shooting fish in a barrel. These people laugh at everything. Okay, so maybe I'm crapping on it. I don't know. But if you are going to be in Brighton, come and see my show. If you're going to be there May 7th, 8th, or 9th, that will be at the Tusk Club in the Walrus, and it's at 6:30. So good time slot. Really excited to be by the sea. I miss being outside. I'm outside. I miss being out in nature. I'm outside a lot. I walk a lot, but I'm in a city and I miss mountains and beaches and fields and just feeling kind of small in the world of nature. And now I just feel small in the world of man-made. Although I live in Philadelphia, and it's, I think, a very approachable city. It's much more low-key than New York. It has a lot of similar elements in architecture, but it's just on a smaller scale, and I don't find it as overwhelming as being in New York. I don't feel like, oh, I'm ground down by the city. It's fine, especially where I live. I live in a very cute part of Philadelphia, and a lot of my walks are in the cute parts of Philly. So I don't feel ground down by it or anything, but boy, I would love to hike to the top of something while I'm in Brighton, but I don't think that there's anything close by that I could do that. Whereas at Edinburgh Fringe, there's Arthur's Seat, so that's a nice little hike that you can do right next to the city, which is lovely. Which brings me to my Edinburgh Fringe show is live. I can finally announce it. They just announced it like a week and a half ago, maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I will be in the Appleton Tower, which is basically Bristow Square. I guess it's George Square is the one that I'm right next to, but it's Bristow Square. It's close to McEwen Hall and kind of all that like fun spot. That's where I wanted to be. I like that spot. Cowgate is fine. There's a lot of shows down there, but Cowgate is kind of rowdy. It's just lots of broken glass and puddles of like piss and puke. And Bristow Square is a bit nicer. So Appleton Tower is a University of Edinburgh building. So I'm actually wondering, because it is a very tall building, it might be accessible. I need to check, but that would be excellent if people don't have to go upstairs to do it. This is something that makes it really difficult if you're trying to be a performer that wants to have all accessible shows. There are just so many stairs in Edinburgh. It's really, really difficult to get a venue that has that option. And my mom is in a wheelchair, and I think about that. My mom couldn't get to my show, and that is sad. So yes, Appleton Tower. I have 1,660 seats to sell. Yikes, that's a lot. If you know anyone in Edinburgh or Glasgow or in anywhere in Scotland or England or even Ireland, or Wales, or Northern Ireland. I don't know. Do I include all of Ireland together? I don't know. I include it as an island, so I'm not going to get political here. Yeah, because I don't have a dog in that fight, but I do love Ireland. So yes, if you know anyone that might go to it, please tell them. I've started running ads for my Brighton show, and I found a PR person to help me with the EdFringe show. So hopefully that will result in some bums and seats, which I think would be a lovely title for a comedy show. I'm debating whether or not I'm going to do many open spots. When you go to Edinburgh Fringe, there are tons of comedy shows, many that are solo shows where you hear the same person for an hour, but they have a lot of compilation shows. So there'll be a theme like queer comedy or on the spectrum or comedians from Africa or the anxiety show, and then it will be a showcase of comedians that have material related to that. 2 years ago, I went hard on the open spots. I did, I think, 75 shows during the month that I was there, and I was running around to and fro, and I really enjoyed it. It was fun to be on all those different shows, and many people will do these shows to promote their full show. So you're doing an hour every day, and then you pop onto other showcases and give a little sampler. You do 5 to 15 minutes usually. And then if you like that, come to my show, Best Cult Ever. You typically do it to plug whatever your full show is. And that's fun. I was doing it for the stage time more than anything else, and that's why I would like to do it again. However, looking at my time and how I'm going to spend it, it might be better to make things while I'm there that are more permanent. Some of the showcases that I was on were just in these tiny little rooms that were 100 degrees, and they smelled of feet and armpits, and there were 7 people there or 70 people there. I don't know, there were lots of different shows, and I loved the experience. But whenever I'm booked on something or booked for anything, whether it's a train ticket or a comedy show, it kind of lives in my brain as a timer. One of my tics is that I count a lot, like if I'm running late for work and I'm doing something like, oh, I'll put on a pair of earrings. I'll go, no, Leah, you don't have time. You have to leave. You've got to leave in 3 minutes. And I'll go, no, well, just take a second. So I'll pick up the earrings and go 1,000, 2, 1,000, and count how long it takes me. See, that only took 48 seconds. That is a weird tic of mine. And when I am signed up to do different shows, I have this timer in my brain and it's hard for me to enjoy myself sometimes. So if I run into a friend, oh, you want to grab a drink? Then I go, okay, what time is it? It's 3 o'clock. Okay, I'm on the show at 4:30. And it takes me about 20 minutes. And part of me just wants to enjoy the time that I have there. I also have my own flat and I could record podcasts there. I could edit videos from the previous day. I could make a lot of cool stuff while I'm there. So I'm not sure if I do little shows. I mean, sometimes people ask you to be on them, but often you apply to be on them. And I haven't applied for any yet. If anyone listens to this and if anyone has a weigh in on if I should do open spots, let me know. Just kidding. I don't even know how you would let me know. I don't know. DM me? No, don't do that. It's okay. I'll figure it out. Yes, I tend to extreme. A couple years ago, I was doing a ton of spots. This year, maybe I won't do any spots. I don't know. Unless I just get asked to be on one last minute or something. And then another example of being extreme, I really like wearing black and would wear it on stage. And actually, Adam Bloom said, why do you wear black? Why, you should be wearing bright colors. That fits your personality and your act better to wear colors. And so what did I do? Oh, I went hard on it. So instead of wearing black, I am wearing tennis ball green, like neon yellow, bright, fluorescent, bioluminescent colors now. I'm on kind of a kick right now because I found out that I can dye clothes that color because the neon yellow is very hard to find. Usually only find it in, high-vis vest, but exercise clothing. So I've just been rummaging through the dollar bin at my local thrift store, and whenever I find something like a white top, ooh, I could dye this. So I dyed some clothes this weekend, and I love it. I had just dyed this jumper sweater that I really liked, and it's really bright because I hadn't washed it yet. It was like full on, like you need sunglasses to look at me, especially in the bright sun. So I'm walking by a restaurant and there's this bigger guy, probably in his 50s, looks like like a contractor or something. And he's wearing a long sleeve shirt that is also this same electric yellow color. And for a moment, I look over at him and our eyes lock and we just sort of acknowledge the fact that we're both freaks wearing chartreuse. And we just had this moment where we both smiled at each other and gave each other a nod like we had served in Vietnam together or something. It was a weird moment. I'm like, am I this freak? Yes, I am this freak. I've always liked neon yellow. I've always liked neon colors, but neon yellow and neon salmon is maybe what I would call it. It's kind of a pink peach color. I love that color. I don't know if I can achieve it in dyeing it. But maybe. Yes, I'm excited about my neon yellow clothing. The weather it's beautiful today, which is sad because I'm hunched over in a tiny closet. But boy, the weather, we have had some cold, windy, sad weather. And normally, whatever, it's cool. I can snuggle inside and drink hot cocoa, and it's a nice time to have hygge, I think is how it's pronounced. Hygge. It's a Scandinavian, Swedish word? Swedish or Danish? Anyway, maybe it's Norwegian. I think it's Swedish for liking to be snuggled in and cozy. But there's only so much. And like I said, I'm outside a lot. And so navigating that, okay, I'm going to be walking for like an hour and a half. Do I need to put a cover on my backpack so that everything doesn't get soaked in there? And I don't know. It's days like that I go, I love Ireland and I want to move there, but I just can't do it. I just can't do weather like this day after day after day. So shout out to my Irish friends. How do you do it? I think that's why I admire and love Irish people so much, because they're great crack. They're so funny. And I think it's because there's lots of reasons, but I think weather plays into how our personalities develop. And yeah, they're well acquainted with suffering and they're hilarious and more poetic because I don't know, have to put a spin on the crappy weather that they have. Yes, I like being outside. In Brighton, I'll be outside, but is there anything to climb? I haven't looked if there's a hill or something nearby. I'd really like some high up place. All the videos and pictures I've seen of Brighton seem to be, is it kind of rocky beach? I don't know. I need to do more research. It has been insane here. All the stuff getting for Philly Theatre Week and then Brighton Fringe and then Edinburgh Fringe and just all that kind of stuff mixed in with my day job and family. I was going to be working on my show right now, but I wanted to make something. I wanted to make a podcast. So my plan for Brighton, I get in very early in the morning. I get in at 6:20 in the morning. And my Airbnb doesn't open up until 4 o'clock. So I have this big chunk of time where I'm going to have all my luggage. So I rented a little locker so that I can just wander around Brighton. And from the Instagram account that I followed to get more acquainted with Brighton, it's going to be crazy. That's what I'm saying. I'm sure I'll find something to do. I actually like wandering around by myself and having nothing to do. It's one of my favorite pastimes. I am looking forward to meandering around Brighton and having memories of Brighton, because what I always thought of when I heard Brighton, if you've seen the old Pride and Prejudice, Lydia, the youngest who hooks up with Wickham, I've never been to Brighton. She's like really excited to go to Brighton. It's where all the regiment is going. It's, I guess, was a naval town. Anything near the water's fair game for the Navy, but it'll be nice to see it in its modern day glory and not just with the red coats. All right. So the show went well, especially because I found new things on stage. I really like that. I try to tightly write the show. I write the script as best as I can, but to be honest, it's hard for me to remember everything. I could tell it was a good vibe because I shared some things I did not plan on sharing on stage. In fact, I hope there were not reviewers there, because I got to a point and I wanted to say it, and I admitted, like, I want to say this, but I hadn't planned it and it's probably not wise for me. And somebody shouted out something like, it's a safe space or it's just us. And they were just so lovely and encouraging. I did mean to look if anyone reviewed the show, because I hope it doesn't end up in there because I can't take it back. But it was good. That's a feeling that I want in my shows. I want an environment of sharing. When I used to go to Overeaters Anonymous, that's one thing that I loved about it, was I at least felt really free to share anything there. It was very supportive, and because everybody was so real and raw, it was hard to top what someone else shared. It's not a competition. And one of the cool things about 12-step is that you are not supposed to crosstalk. You can kind of mention what somebody else said. Like if they said their dad was an alcoholic or something, then when you share, you might say my dad was an alcoholic too, or so. But that would be as far as you could get. You're really not supposed to say one thing that you mentioned, that it's only your experience. You're not supposed to refer to what other people are saying. So kind of interesting. The microphone didn't work initially. It was okay, but it had a crackly sound. It was driving me crazy. At one point early in the show, I'm singing a song, and I just decided to step away from the microphone because it wasn't working. And man, it felt great to walk around. I talked about wanting to get a face mic, but the least expensive one that I found that seems like it would work is $500. I'm not sure that I want to put that money in there. But are you freaking kidding me? I decided to record this podcast because I was by myself and they're home. I can hear my family is home. Okay, this is what goes on with, seriously, actually, it plays in perfectly with the theme that I wanted to do in this show. I was reading the story of the wedding of Sir Gawain and Dame Ragnell, which kind of gives away the ending, a little bit of a spoiler. I found this story in Lisa Marchiano's book, and it's the story of Sir Gawain, who was one of King Arthur's knights. And it starts off, Arthur is out hunting, I think it's a white hart or something, a stag, and he shoots it. And then the guy who lives on the land, Gromer, finds King Arthur, and he's pissed off because Arthur took his land. So Gromer is going to kill him right then and there, and Arthur tells him that that's dishonorable, and you shouldn't kill an unarmed man like this. But how about I come back in a year, and then you can kill me, I guess. I know, sometimes these legends don't really make sense. It was a different time. So Gromer and Arthur make this agreement that Arthur is going to return in a year. And Gromer will spare his life if he can find the answer to this mysterious question, which is, what women desire most? So Arthur has a year to figure out what a girl wants, what a girl needs. Okay, sorry about that. Am I going to have to pay copyright for that? I hope not. It was a bad enough rendition that I don't think anyone's going to care. So Arthur goes back to his court and he tells Gawain what happened. And he's like, oh crap, I don't know what ladies be shopping. I don't know what they want. So Gawain goes, no worries, I will help you out. So Arthur and Gawain head out separately in separate directions to essentially conduct a survey to find out what women desire most. And they are gone for 11 months, and they collect all of the answers in a book. So it's things like, oh, they want to be well-dressed, or they want to be courted, or they want a lusty man to kiss and embrace them, was one of the lines, which I thought was funny. So yeah, they have all this research. They meet back with this giant book, binder full of women, if you will. Which, by the way, Mitt Romney, I know he's not perfect, but how far we have fallen from Mitt Romney, who intentionally had collected the names and resumes of women that he wanted to serve in his cabinet because he trusted them as being intelligent and experienced and was like, yes, I want these people in my staff. These would be excellent candidates. Compared to Trump. And it bugs me that people shit on Romney for that. They're like, well, binder full of women. It wasn't because he wanted to sleep with them like Trump. I get grumpy about that. Okay, so binder full of women. Binder full of women. So they have just a few weeks left before they've got to meet back with Gromer. And they're going through the woods, and Arthur sees this hideous woman. She's got like bulging eyes and big yellow teeth and a hunchback and the thick neck and big barrel-chested, oily, greasy. She would be what they call in Philly a ratchet-ass hoe, I believe, is what they would call her in these streets. So this lady is fugly, but she's on a really fancy horse and has fancy clothes, which is like, interesting. How did you make your money? Anyway, she approaches Arthur and she says, hey, I know the answer to this question that Gromer gave you. And I will tell it to you under one condition. And that is that I get to marry Gawain. Gawain, according to this story, I haven't done a whole lot of research, apparently is like Arthur's right-hand man. It's his bestie. So Arthur's like, oh, I mean, here's the answer to my question that's going to save my life. But poor Gawain, he goes back. He says, let me check with Gawain. I can't commit him to that. So he goes back. Hey, Gawain, Fugly wants to marry you. You don't have to, but if you don't, then I die. So, #no pressure. Gawain says yes, because the name of this story is called The Wedding of Sir Gawain and Dame Ragnell. By the way, her name is Dame Ragnell. Ragnell? Ragnell. Ragnell. So Gawain is, bros before hoes, and he says yes, that he's going to go marry this bulldog. At this point, you're probably wondering, yeah, what do women desire most? And Dame Ragnell gives the answer that what women desire most is sovereignty. Yeah, did you guess that? Did you guess sovereignty? So that's the answer she gives. Arthur goes back on the date they agreed 12 months after the first meeting with Gromer, and he meets him and he reveals that he knows what women desire most, that it's sovereignty, and Gromer's like, oh, snap, because Arthur got it right. Which is interesting to me because how does Gromer know? And isn't this kind of subjective? I just, in my mind, had this funny idea of, Arthur's like, what women desire most is sovereignty. And he's like, no, it was pumpkin spice lattes. And then he cuts his head off. Anyway, it was Lululemon. All right. So Arthur goes free. He saves his life, but now his friend has to marry the Fugly. So Gawain is obviously a bit embarrassed and asks Dame Ragnall, hey, could we do this kind of secret, like, could we keep this on the DL? And she's like, nope, you would dishonor me. That would be shameful. So we are doing a full proper wedding, just like if I were hot. I just think of Dame Ragnall is like, boo, from The Princess Bride. Bow down to her. Bow down to her. The queen of putrescence. Yeah, that's what I imagine it to be like, except for instead of it being a heckler, it's the bride. So the wedding takes place. They're all at the wedding feast, and DR is sitting at a table by herself, like slurping food with grease going down her I mean, they paint a horrible picture of this lady. So feast is over. Gawain and Ragnall go up to bed. And do you see what's coming? Have you heard enough fairy tales to know what's going to happen? Maybe you already know the story. Basically, Bro gets into bed. Ragnall rolls over and bow chicka wow wow. She's hot. Of course she is. That's what happens in fairy tales. It always cracks me up that, like, anyone who's not hot, who's like super ugly and witchy, they're usually under a spell. Like, just know they're probably hot, and they could get back to that if they, find true love or something like that. Anyway, totally called it. Anyway, so she's hot. Gawain is obviously like, whew, I dodged a bullet. But she explains, you guessed it, there was a curse on her. However, now that she has Gawain, I guess part of the spell was that now that you have somebody, you actually have a choice. You can either be ugly during the day and hot at night, or you can be hot during the day and ugly at night. So it's this debate, and she asks Gawain, what would you like? Do you want me to look nice for your friends but ugly for you at night? So she hands it off to him, and what do you think he does? What do you think Gawain, what do we think of this guy? I mean, he's proven himself to be true to his word. He seems like a decent guy. Is he gonna mess things up here at the home stretch right before he hits the tape, or is he gonna be the shining star that we think he is, or is his going to be a cautionary tale? What do you think? Come on, put it together. What do women desire most? Sovereignty. What is Dame Ragnall doing? Saying, you get to choose my fate. What does he do? Oh yeah, your boy turns it back on Dame Ragnall and says, you know what? You choose. If what women desire most is sovereignty, you got it, ugly. Or 50% ugly. Some of the time, part-time ugly. And guess what? Oh, he broke the spell. She gets to be hot 24/7. Yeah, isn't that a fun story? I've been thinking about that because sovereignty, I think that's the thing with my show, is that I like it because it's mine. I feel a sense of sovereignty in the show. I made it the way that I wanted to make it, and I don't have a lot of buy-in or criticism, or like my husband doesn't really even know what's in the show, and I kind of like that. I just want it to be mine. Even when I was Mormon and we lived kind of in a rural area, I used to fantasize about buying a motorhome, like a camper van, not a double wide, but just some kind of trailer that could be totally my own, that there would be a lock on it and nobody could go in, and it was just mine. A huge part of this was having kids, because they get into all your stuff. To have a child is to not know where your scissors are. at all times. They get into everything. And motherhood is such an interesting experience because you use your body to make another body. And once that body exists in the world, you can't help but want it to be okay. There's some quote that says something like, to have a child is like to have your heart walking around outside of your body, something like that. Sorry if I butchered that. But I felt that really strongly after having a child because I felt like I was never myself again because I made a piece of myself and I lived in that. And so to have a quiet, dark space of my own that I could lock, that I could feel completely free in, and that no one would encroach on that was really nice. So I liked the story about sovereignty, and I've tried to have that in my comedy. I've tried to make it, this is my own thing, and that's what makes it difficult. I've only had a couple of comments. Maybe I covered this in a couple other podcasts I've done, but I've gotten some clapback from not too many people because I don't really put my Mormon stuff online. But I do have people asking me why I'm talking about it, things like that. And it feels like them kind of putting their face up to the window of my camper van, them trying to pick the lock of my she shed and come in there. I'm like, nope, this is mine and I get to talk about it. Why do I feel like I have to talk about this? Because I can talk about it because I gave my whole life to it and I can speak from my own experience. And if somebody really truly believes that what they have is true and right, then there's no need to feel threatened by me sharing my experiences. So I try to hold on to that. In fact, I had an interesting thing happen recently. I decided to send a card to Martha Beck. She was Mormon her whole life until her 30s, I believe. And her dad was actually a very famous Mormon apologist. He was a scholar who wrote tons of books defending Mormonism. And she left the church at one point, and she's, I hate saying life coach, but that's what she is. She's, and motivational speaker is not really a good, that seems tacky, but she's super smart. She has Harvard degrees and speaks multiple languages, and she's lived in Asia, and she memorizes passages of Dante and stuff. So she's not like your typical hack life coach that just memorizes pithy phrases. I have a lot of respect for her as an academic and as a wholehearted person. So she wrote a book called Leaving the Saints, and that was her experience in leaving Mormonism. And I decided to read it a few months ago to kind of prepare me for this show because I knew that if I came out and I spoke openly about Mormonism, that I would get pushback from people and people that I love. And I wasn't sure how to talk with them, and I wasn't sure what that would feel like. And so I felt to read her book to get a taste of what does it feel like to leave this community. And I knew that nothing I would experience would be anywhere close to the level of what she did because her dad was such an influential person in the church and he sexually abused her. So it was very faith-shaking for a lot of people. I have never had anything so traumatic and awful happen to me. So I draw strength from her experience and her willingness to speak out. And I'm sure that if any true believing Mormons listen to this, they will come back against that and go, oh, they never proved that there was a this or that, whatever. I am leaning heavily to the side of believing survivors. I would just rather believe survivors than to go, well, I don't want to participate in rape culture anymore. It's like, if you have any appreciation for how difficult, embarrassing, and emotionally taxing and horrific it is to come out and talk about sexual violence, I just don't think there's that many people telling stories for attention. Sure, there are some people, but I just would rather, I spent a lot of my life on the other side of the fence of that, and I would much rather be in the camp that believes people and supports them. So I really appreciate her willingness to share her story. And so I sent her a card and I thanked her, and I heard back from her. It was so cool. She followed me on Instagram and we messaged back and forth a couple of times. So that was a really exciting little thing that happened to me. And I appreciate Martha Beck as someone who encourages this search for sovereignty. And I don't want to give away my show, but I will. The show ends with me talking about how in leaving Mormonism, I felt free to try a lot of different things, and people often ask me what I've liked the most since leaving Mormonism. For example, Mormons aren't supposed to drink coffee or alcohol, just as a simple example. And so, yeah, I like coffee. Alcohol is fun. I've talked about it before. I don't do it that much, pretty much just when I'm in England and Scotland. And I'm coming for you, Ireland. I'm definitely going to drink when I go to Ireland. I'm going to have like actual proper Guinness over there. I want to see what that tastes like. I mean, I don't have much of a taste for beer or stout or whatever. So I'm sure I'm not going to have the advanced palate that can appreciate just how delicious it is or whatever. But I explained that the thing that I love the most since leaving Mormonism is the sovereignty over my own mind, and that I finally feel free to think anything I want without feeling like I'm being observed, and that every thought that I have is being recorded and will be a piece of evidence in the trial of my life to see if I've been godly or not. I like the feeling that I can think anything that I want, that I'm free, that my mind is its own she-shed. Because in Mormonism, they believe that God knows your thoughts, knows the thoughts and intents of your heart. And so it's not just the things that you say and do, but it's also the things that you think about. And that's just hard. It's hard to feel like you're never alone, that you're in a panopticon. Do you know that? The guy that invented this prison system where all of the cells face the center and the guard tower's in the middle, so you don't know if the guard's looking at you, but you feel like you're always being watched. And it felt like that. Now, you might think, oh, that's awful. Like, what a horrible God to believe in. But the Mormon God is also very loving. I know there's a lot of harsh language in some religions about God wanting to smite people and thrust them down to hell where they burn forever, but you are taught that God is a loving father in Mormonism. So to call it a panopticon in the context of Mormonism isn't fair, because God's not. In fact, there was a leader I remember, his name's Jeffrey R. Holland, and he gave a talk, and he said that God is not some sort of divine umpire trying to call you out on third base. God is rooting for you and wants you to make it to home base. The only thing is there's an emphasis on God being a God of law and of order. So as much as God might love you and be compassionate and kind, he's also a God of law. And so if you're thinking, saying, or doing things that are against God, who is perfect and all-loving, then that has to be reckoned. That has to be accounted for. So yes, we're all going to have unsavory thoughts. We're all going to say things that we regret or do things that we shouldn't have done or whatever. And you can repent for that, but there just becomes this long list of things that, oh, I need to repent of that. Oh, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. It's just it's a lot. And it's nice to not be in my head so much. It's nice to have been granted the sovereignty that I desired most. And the result has been that I feel beautiful in the day and in the night and at all times. Life is very beautiful, and I am happy to be where I am today. And where I'm going to be in a few minutes is outside enjoying the setting sun on this beautiful April day in Philadelphia.